The art and craft of finding movie mistakes requires a certain degree of pedantry. The hunter enjoys the adulation of picking apart someone else's diligent work by pointing out flaws ranging from the catastrophically plot-holing to the entirely incidental and inconsequential. All such mistakes are greeted with the same self-congratulatory trumpeting regardless of their actual weight or impact, because we're a massive bunch of bloody losers. I'm Ben from Whatculture, and here are 10 movie mistakes only smug nerds would ever notice. Number 10. Forrest Gump invested in Apple 5 years before it was actually possible to. The issue of historical inaccuracy in Forrest Gump is hardly a new thing, and to be honest, the film's various gaffes in the name of entertainment can mostly be forgiven, but not this one. Taking the money earned from their joint Bubba Gump shrimping endeavor, Lieutenant Dan invested in Apple in his formative years. But the problem is that the letter from Apple was sent on the 21st of September 1975, which is not only a Sunday, and that's dedication from the responding Apple employee, but also a full 5 years before Apple was open for investment. And if that wasn't enough of a pedantic spot, some eagle-eyed film fan pointed out that the font used for Apple Garamond wasn't designed until 1977 and didn't start appearing until the launch of the Macintosh in 1984. Ha! Got you! You think you can come in here and get away with that? Number 9. Jurassic Park, that's no raptor. Hashtag dinosaur facts change all the time as new discoveries are made, so it's no real surprise that the science team behind Jurassic Park made a lot of mistakes, especially about raptors. Not only did raptors not eviscerate their prey, their claws weren't capable of it, they were also nowhere near as big as their scaly tormentors were on screen. Dino nerds around the globe will happily point out that the creatures that can somehow open doors and seem utterly convinced that Dr. Grant is speaking their language fluently in the third film are in fact Deinonychus. To really understand this one, you have to have spent some time reading about the false classification that happened after a presumptuous classification change by paleo artist Gregory S. Paul. Except you don't. He got it wrong. Basically, he got it all wrong. Raptors and Deinonychus are different, and I just saved you half an hour on Wikipedia. You're welcome. Number 8. Braveheart's warriors, fashion trendsetters. Braveheart is another historical film that was liberal with the truth, but since it was all done in the spirit of entertainment, it gets a pass. But there's one detail that fans of history cannot ignore, and it concerns the iconic outfits worn by William Wallace and his rebellious brethren. Now, it's nothing to do with the sunglasses and watches that were supposedly all too visible in the earliest versions of the battle scenes that were ultimately reshot. The big problem is that kilts weren't actually introduced into Scotland until some 400 years after the events of the film, making Wallace and his clan of fighters the greatest example of fashion trendsetters since your dad tried go-go boots. Incidentally, the film's decision to portray Wallace's supposed tryst with Isabella of France somewhat calamitously ignores the fact that she was 9 years old when Wallace was executed. Number 7. Back to the Future's instrument errors. No matter how much you may love Back to the Future, there's one scene that seems to get music history lovers annoyed, and that's the infamous Johnny B. Good climax that sees Marty McFly invent rock and roll. In it, Marty plays a Gibson ES-345 with a retrofitted Bixby vibrato, despite the fact that the guitar wasn't first produced until 1958, and the vibrato later still. And that's not all. When he finishes his mental rendition of Berry's classic, he kicks over a guitar amplifier which creates the unmistakable sound of an amp fitted with a reverb tank, which wasn't prototyped until 1961. And if that still wasn't enough, Marty tells Marvin Berry and his band that the song he's about to play is in the key of B before launching into the song, which is unmistakably in B flat. You're welcome. Number 6. Magnums. Too powerful for one hand. Hollywood lies about guns all the time. In reality, a gunshot will not blow you off your feet. You won't be able to hide behind a table to protect yourself, and automatic gunfire is remarkably difficult to dodge. Arguably the most devastating and mythology-destroying revelation from the world of gun science, however, is the fact that some guns, such as the iconic .45 caliber Magnum that Dirty Harry favors, is so powerful that it cannot accurately be held and fired with one hand. The resulting kickback would be enough to strain even the burly, macho wrists of Clint Eastwood, and would probably fire the bullets straight up in the air, rather than with the devastating accuracy Callahan always seemed to manage. Number 5. Disney bird pedantry. This one is arguably the finest example of pointless attention to detail on this whole list, given how little impact it actually has on the film as a whole, but this is why you're here. Ready? In Mary Poppins, there are not one, but two errors. Two errors! surrounding the inclusion of Robins. Firstly, the Robins shown in the film are in fact American and must be incredibly lost given that the film takes place in London. English Robins tend to be a lot shorter and stouter, with the physical resemblance of a small Christmas pudding with wings rather than their leaner, more sparrow-like American cousins. And then there's the fact that both of the Robins who sing along with Mary as she bribes the children to take their medicine with sugar are not girl and boy birds, but are in fact the same sex, and probably male given their plumage. Number 4. Indy's book-burning caper was 5 years too late. Another triumph for the most diligent history nerds! This revelation centers on the key sequence in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade that sees Indy and his father travel to Berlin to retrieve Senior's Grail diary. The date is 1938 and Hitler's forces are holding a book-burning rally at the Institute of Aryan Culture in Berlin. Fun, destroying books deemed counter to Nazi ideology in huge fires. Indy manages to secure the book only to find himself confronted by Hitler, who comically confuses Indy for a fan and signs the diary as a memento. It's a great moment, but sadly, it was impossible since the real Nazi book burnings, which were conducted by the German Student Association of Nazi Germany, took place in 1933, burning any authors whose names were blacklisted or whose works were viewed as subversive or contrary to the Nazi administration. So Indy was a good 5 years too late there. Number 3. Jules' iconic Bible reference is a self-serving misquote. In Pulp Fiction, Tarantino builds one memorable scene on some infamous scripture, allowing hitman Jules Winfield to shout his way to bloody vengeance against a small band of the enemies of Marcellus Wallace. His tirade reads thusly: "The path of the righteous man is beset on all sides by the iniquities of the selfish and tyranny of evil men. Blessed is he who, in the name of charity," and it goes on like that. But as Bible fans will inevitably point out, the real Ezekiel 25:17, which Jules claims to quote, is in fact far simpler and far less apocalyptic, even though the context is still largely vengeful. "And I will execute great vengeance upon them with furious rebukes, and they shall know that I am the Lord," and it goes on like that. But they were different, that's the point, they're different. Number 2. Jurassic Park has magical electricity. In the oddly comical scene in which Tim is shot across the sky by the newly reactivated electric fence, there are two fairly sizable scientific errors, which would be bread and butter for anyone with even a little bit of electronics training. Doctor! Firstly, Dr. Grant throws a stick at the fence to see if it is active, despite the fact that wood is an insulator, you bloody moron, and is thus incapable of conducting electricity. And then, Timmy is electrocuted, despite the fact that the simplest laws of electricity state that you cannot be electrocuted if no part of you is touching the ground. Additionally, the result of that much electricity running through Tim would have been an inability to loosen his grip as the charge turned his body into part of the live circuit, rather than him supermaning off away from the fence. Basically, he's super dead. He's super dead, yo. He's dead. Number 1. Andy Dufresne is a time traveler. Everyone loves The Shawshank Redemption, but the list of errors is massive, and we're focusing on the most pointless of them all. Here we go. In the beautiful opera scene in which Andy locks the screw in the toilet and plays music to his fellow inmates, the recording chosen was created in 1968, a full 14 years after the time period portrayed in the film. And then there's the fact that both of Andy's most memorable posters defy the timeline as well. The poster from 1 million years BC featuring Welch may have been taken from the right year, but the film wasn't released until December, and the poster only became popular after the film's release. And oh my god, this might be the worst one. Are you ready for this? For any financial nerd out there, you may have noticed that Andy tells Hadley that the IRS allow a one-time tax-free gift to a spouse to solve his inheritance issue, despite the fact that the IRS wasn't called the IRS until the 1950s, and at the time of the scene, 1949, it was known as the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which a banker would presumably know. Not so fast. And that's our list. Make sure you subscribe to the Whatculture YouTube channel for more lists like this, and don't forget to visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. I'm Ben from Whatculture, and thanks for watching. Oh, hello there. I'm billionaire philanthropist, not Bruce Wayne, and as you may have heard, we've actually started up a Whatculture comics channel. Oh, that's better. Where you can go for all the comics lists, all the comics news, and all the comics discussion. So go and subscribe to Whatculture Comics for loads of amazing comics coverage.